to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very empowering show coming right up with special guest Maureen Healy, and she's here to share with us her new book, The Emotionally Healthy Child, helping children calm, center, and make smarter choices. Maureen is also the author of Growing Happy Kids, which won the Nautilus and Reader's Favorite Book Awards in 2014. A popular Psychology Today blogger and sought-after public speaker, Maureen runs a global mentoring program for elementary-age children and works with parents and their children in busy private practice. Her expertise in social and emotional learning has taken her all over the world, including working with Tibetan refugee children at the base of the Himalayas in northern India to classrooms in Northern California. So let's welcome to the show, Maureen Healy.
Thank you for having me.
What a pleasure it is to have you here. And my goodness, your book is really in depth. You have to be so proud as an author because, a lot of people are saying such great things about your book.
Thank you. It's nice when you write a book and people read it and it's actually helpful. So that's really, really good.
Well, so why don't you share with our listeners, what inspired you to write this book?
Sure. I would say probably a bunch of different things, but, this is the type of book I would have liked these ideas as a child, like how do emotions work and what you can do with your big emotions. And then from the standpoint of working with parents and children all over the world, I kept seeing people either in my virtual office or my real office in Santa Barbara. And, kids just really didn't have the skills yet of how to handle their emotions. So the good thing about this book, The Emotionally Healthy Child, is it gives it parents and teachers and adults the ideas and the tools on how to help kids. And that's really the goal.
So as a child, did you have those big emotions that you are so interested in?
Yeah, definitely have, very creative, imaginative, sensitive, and big emotions. Sure, absolutely.
I think every kid does, right?
But I would say some kids have them even bigger, which is sort of why I think, the kids that are very sensitive, they have these quick reactions. Mm-hmm. So it's those kids that I kept seeing in my office who could go in any direction quickly.
So, and you kind of, excuse me, you touched on this a little bit, but I'd love for you to share with our listeners, what do you mean by emotionally healthy child?
Sure. It's something we can talk about for hours and probably lifetimes, but I will say that the idea of emotional health is the skill of balance. So life just throws us off balance, whether it's a child being teased or it's as an adult, you're getting a flat tire. But it's learning how to come back to balance, which is the skill of emotional health. And it has to do with flexibility. And where this book starts, The Emotionally Healthy Child, the first step in the idea of becoming, healthier and ultimately happier is really how do you identify your emotions and then constructively express them. So it requires that children learn how emotions work and what they can do with them. So that would be the beginning step. And then, of course, it gets more complicated with like the emotionally healthy mindset and and the values and character development and other pieces of the puzzle, because emotional health, as we all know, it's not a box to check. It's something we do throughout our lives.
Well, are you finding as parents are reading this book with the intention to use it for their children, they're actually learning a lot about themselves in that process as well?
Yes, I would say that one of the reoccurring comments I get is, forget my kids, this is what I need. And it's true. It's true.
Yeah. There wasn't any kind of book like, and you're right, yeah, this is obviously why you wrote it, but there weren't any of these kind of discussions happening, 30, 40, 50 years ago.
That's true. Or at least I didn't know about them if they were.
I didn't either. I did not either. Well, and so you talk in your book about emotional health being based on the ability to make better choices. And I think it's such a big thing because a lot of times, as we're kind of touching on here, you talk about kids that they don't even understand that they have a choice, when it comes to their emotions.
Yeah. I think that, most children, they feel something deeply and then they have a quick reaction, not even realizing that they could sort of slow down and pause and make a better choice. So it is creating that self-awareness and helping them slow down and catch themselves before they go down a not so smart path.
So what are some tips that they can stop themselves and kind of go, okay, wait a minute, I need to get this in check?
Yeah, I mean, every child is different, but certainly I'll give you an example. Like, there was a child I worked with and he threw a notebook across the classroom. So he hit someone in the head with it when he got frustrated. So obviously it helped him. He got anger relief, but it certainly didn't help the other child. So, making a smart choice is doing something good for you and someone else. So after that incident, I spoke to him and said, hey, could we have done that differently? What would have been a smart choice? Something good for you and good for someone else, the other kids. So, talking to the teacher, taking a break and, going to the bathroom and throwing water on his face or, a whole bunch of things he came up with. So the idea is to create self-awareness and then practice, because then in those moments when you're starting to get irritated, annoyed, frustrated, angry, or even a positive emotion, you can begin to become more aware and say, okay, wait a second, I can take a beat. So it's really practice.
Yeah, taking that practice. Well, in your book, you list 3 steps that kind of walk people through, like, kind of what to do. And you touched on this one, kind of like, you go splash water in your face, kind of, stop and just kind of be present for the moment.
Yeah. I mean, the 3 steps are how do you, 1, stop. The second one is calm, because typically no great decisions are made when you're really angry or even very sad, is when you have that sort of neutral perspective. And then the third is make a smart choice, good for you and good for others. And each step is got lots to it. That's why the book has a lot of tools and strategies that work with children. But certainly the first step, helping kids pay attention and catch themselves, is really where we begin.
Are you finding that when children are using the stop, calm, and make a smarter choice, that it not only changes everything, but they become, just much more conscious about everything they're doing?
Well, I mean, I think that if they do have practices of what I would call mindfulness or paying attention, that does change things in every area of their life. So it's sort of going from careless reactions to careful responses, or going from mindless to mindful. And we're not saying, I mean, there's certainly a place to be mindless, after school, relax, have some popcorn, lay on the bed, just take a break, no problem. But the idea is, when we make choices with our right and a left brain, and we use, both our feelings and logic, and we learn how to make a careful choice, things just work out better for us as adults and as children. So helping them, learn to slow down. Oftentimes children just move so quickly, they're not really thinking. And that's okay. That's how it starts. But, learning how to slow down and take a beat before you, throw, like I was just talking to someone yesterday, the boy got really upset and he threw rocks at his sister's head. Well, obviously not a good idea, So they put in a punching bag in their house, and instead of that, he says, "All right, we see you're getting annoyed. Go downstairs and we'll set a timer for 10 minutes and go hit the punching bag." So that's a better option. So helping a child realize, oh, I have a choice. I don't just have to have a knee-jerk reaction. You sort of pre-pave the path when you get frustrated or have a big emotions. What are the things that help you calm? So sort of having that preventative discussion. So in the moment, like in the book, I have the smart choices checklist where you can, before, whether it's at home or the classroom, you can identify some smart choices. And it's not you as an adult identifying them. It's working with your child saying, hey, what can you do to feel calmer? What helps you? Because every child is different, but helping him or her pick some things. And then in those moments say, all right, go pick one of those things and let's do it. Helping them learn how to self-soothe and direct their energy and emotions.
So, in developing healthy children, what makes your book kind of stand out, make it different than the other books that are out there in regards to helping children work through their emotions?
Right. So I was really delighted to have the Dalai Lama write the preface for the book, and that comes out in the second edition of the book. But, it's these ideas based on wisdom, and it's not a certain religion, but I've never before seen in a book for adults to help children how emotions work. So I have 7 ways that children typically just don't know how emotions work. And they may sound simple, but when children understand them, it's easier for them to sort of manage their emotions better. And then the tools, I've never seen something like this. I've just worked with kids, around the world, and these tools work. So I think it's helpful for parents and teachers to have strategies, and you don't even have to use that strategy exactly, but it's sort of the starting point. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a starting point, it's easier. So I would say that's why I wanted to put in one book the ideas and tools. So most parents and adults come to me and say, so how do I begin? And that's really what this book answers. This is where you start.
Well, if the Dalai Lama wrote the foreword, then that says a lot. So congratulations. I mean, he doesn't do that for every book.
Thank you. It's helpful when you have those things, because it, like you said, it does show that, it's real wisdom. So and condensed in a way that it lands in their mind. So that's the helpful part.
Well, and gosh, okay, so we've got parents that are reading the book that are making changes in their life, probably the way that they're communicating and acting with their children, and then teaching their children how to become emotionally healthy as well. So it's like you're really helping people to change generations going forward.
Yeah, and you know what, that's the goal, is because I think a lot of us as adults sort of came to either emotional health or feeling happier sort of in a bumpy path. And, it's not that we can avoid some bumps in life, they're just there. But it's, we want to sort of avoid the unnecessary bumps. And since we know better, we can help kids earlier. That's my perspective.
Hey, a lot of people feel like they grew up with the Griswold, so I get it, So just survive.
Yeah.
The fact that they survived was amazing.
Right.
But so when we look at this and making these changes, just how much it's not just going to help children going forward, but our our country, our planet. So I think it's just such a great way to start. And in your book, you talk about emotional health continuum. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about that, because I think a lot of times when people think emotional health, they either think that you have some mental things going on, you're just happy, or you're just a bad person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Life isn't so black and white, for sure. I think of emotional health as a continuum. So there's negative emotional health when you're holding more challenging thoughts. Say for a child, it would be, I'm not good at this. I'm not, saying sort of negative things. And then on the other side would be more constructive or positive. I feel good. I did a good job. I love myself. I'm feeling good about XYZ. I have good friendships, more positive or constructive. And I know that emotional health, it's not, we all move on the continuum. Sometimes some days just feel better than others, and that's normal. So I think the goal is just, how do you get yourself back to balance? And I also think that, it's not separate from, what people will call disorders. Like, you can have anxiety and be emotionally healthy. You can be depressed and learn how to become emotionally healthier. So it's learning how to deal with the bumps in life as well.
And how important is that, when we have children that are learning that life's going to be difficult, things aren't going to go our way all the time, and there are going to be challenges, but they can navigate through those. That's very empowering.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we forget. We all just want to be fill in the blank happier because of whatever, our new house, our new husband, our new whatever, and that's okay. But we have to remember it's about wholeness, helping children feel all of their emotions. And it's simply what you do with them that matters. So not ignoring them, not suppressing your emotions, but facing them and learning that you're bigger than your emotions, and that, if you want, you can turn some lemons to lemonade, and then other times they're just lemons, but that you have that ability.
Yeah, sometimes it's just straight up lemons.
Right.
Well,
right.
And as children are learning these new techniques and putting them into place, I know it's not a one size kind of fit all kind of deal. But when we look at this and they're learning these techniques, on average, is this something that they pick up pretty quickly, or do you think it just takes time to develop?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, as we know, every child's different, but the one thread throughout everyone, children and adults, is we all want to feel good. So if you're giving them a tool that helps them feel good and they connect with it, then they're going to use it. And I think from my perspective, it's sort of not the periodic things that you do. It's really more the consistent things, because that's how you pave a new pathway in a child's brain. not just once in a blue moon we do X, but, every night, maybe before you go to sleep, you calm, you put your hand on your heart, you help your child learn how to actually relax and feel calm, so that the next day when they're, really nervous about taking a test, they can put their hand on their heart and help calm themselves,
Mm-hmm.
So it's helping give tools that work. And what might work in second grade may not work in seventh grade. So it's being able to have a whole bunch of tools that you can help them, and that at their point in development with their personality and their interests, that we can find something that helps bring them to calmness and relaxation. Because as we know, this world isn't always calm. And certainly I participated in a survey recently, and one of the results was the number one fear was in children in elementary school was school shooting. So even on a young child's mind, they have these heavy feelings. So helping give them outlets and ways to deal with that is important.
That is important. It's unfortunate that they're having to worry about that at such a young age. Well, in your book, you talk about, steps for children to become happier and developing greater sense of happiness in their lives. I'd love for you to expand a little bit on that.
So tell me where you found that, and I'll tell you all about it.
Well, it's in here. Hold on a minute.
Okay. So, I guess from the perspective of emotional health, I sort of wrote about that because that's the first step. That's the first step to becoming happier, is really learning how to, constructively express your emotions. So whether it's as a child feeling left out, feeling jealous, feeling angry, feeling sad, feeling nervous, learning how to handle those emotions and then make, healthy connections with friendship, feeling confident about your skills in something, you start to move towards feeling happier.
Yeah, and really start developing a sense of that. Well, it's interesting when people do start mindful, kind of mindfulness techniques and strategies, right, they do develop a greater sense of peace and calm and happiness in their life as well.
Right. And I do have a chapter on mindfulness, which is, it goes back to those 3 steps: to stop, calm, and then make a smart choice. And then mindfulness is really an accelerator of helping a child calm, because they learn to pay attention without judgment. So they're learning how to see what's happening and sort of catch themselves. So tools of mindfulness can be really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we've talked about this a few times, but I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into this. When we talk about making a better choice or a smarter choice, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. Even though I define a smart choice as good for you and good for others, it doesn't mean it's an easy choice. It doesn't mean it feels good to everyone. It just means it's a choice that, doesn't harm anyone, right? So, as a child, you're always making choices, whether it's a choice, do I cheat on the spelling quiz like everyone else in the classroom, or do I not, or when I'm sad, what do? Do I sit in my room, or do I learn how to connect, because that's one of the ways if a child sort of runs cool, how do I reach out? There's tools in the book for kids who run sad or sort of have a personality that's more internalized, helping them connect with others, helping them make those healthy connections, helping them have those healthy outlets. So making a smarter choice, oftentimes we think immediately about these challenging emotions like anger because they're so quick. A child's fine in 1 second and 30 seconds later, they're so angry. So it's that, trying to create that more space between the stimulus and response, and also helping them, prepave that path of a smarter choice. So, instead of, screaming, and instead of stomping your feet, how do you do something constructive with your energy? And a lot of times it's physical for kids, go outside and jump on the trampoline for 10 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. Or let me write in my journal, or someone else who likes to hear music. I work with some teenagers and they just want to hear music, and then they sort of reset. I think a way to think about the smarter choice is like, how do you help your child reset? You know what I mean? Make that decision that's good for them and good for others, but that, it lets their energy out. So it's about constructively expressing their emotions. You don't want to, have them suppress their emotions. Of course, sometimes it's not the time and the place, but when there's that right appropriate outlet, whether it's writing in a journal or reading, how do they get their emotions out? It's important.
Well, without a doubt. Well, and it's so interesting because in your book you talk about when children have incorrect perceptions. And um, personally, I don't spend a lot of time around children, so it was, I kind of look at it and go, yeah, of course that makes sense. I think people that spend more time with children would pick this up. But, we look at, they kind of like stream things together and then come out with a conclusion. It's just based on not really having knowledge or experience. And it's interesting because I think a lot of times people don't even realize that they're coming from a totally different viewpoint.
Right, right. Even just, I still see a lot of children who've been bullied. That still is probably the number one thing that I see in my office. Mm-hmm. And most kids come in and think, oh, what have I done wrong? It's like, no, there's nothing that you've done wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. Do you know what I mean? Just because someone said that doesn't make it true. So it's true that, they often put things together that aren't correct, or they don't have the 40 years experience. They don't have that wider perspective to know, XYZ is really not a problem, but Y is, So helping them navigate not only their emotions, but make sense of the world and form a healthy worldview is essential.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some adults that can't do that. So, I mean, This is such a great resource for people, to kind of get to a baseline of an emotional health for themselves.
Yes.
Mm-mm. Well, and so what are some ways, because you talk about children as, I guess, they have a difficulty in seeing the bigger picture. So what are some ways that people, parents, educators, people who are around children can help, facilitate that they're looking at the bigger picture and they can see that?
Well, I think it begins with how we connect with children or disconnect, right? So when we're angry, do we say, hey, go to your room? Or do you say, hey, I see that you're angry? You know what I mean? And I remember feeling angry too. And, in the world, many years from now, you might have other reasons to be angry, but how can I, help you in this moment? So we don't want to sort of give them the harsh realities of life. We want them to have fun being a kid. But we want to help them also realize that, they can make it through whatever situation.
Yeah, they're able to kind of see that, with changing perspectives and looking at things a little bit differently, it will kind of help. So it's not all on, because I'm sure that a lot of times they feel like, oh, like how you said, it's like, what did I do? Because that's how their perception is focused, is around them.
Right. And also, of course, the development of compassion. Like when I work with children and, there was one girl I work with and, I said, tell me about that bully. Like, who is this kid? What's their story? And she said, oh, well, his father's in prison. And we just listened about this child who's been mean to other kids. I said, oh, sounds like he had a tough life. And as soon as this child developed some compassion for this kid and sort of extended that to the child stopped being a bully to her. It was sort of her reframing the situation and, being kinder to this kid. And this kid didn't even know how to deal with that, because bullies sort of just pass on their hurt. So they don't have the self-awareness yet. So one way to make sure you're not raising a bully is to help focus on self-awareness. And of course, we don't want to raise wimps either, even though I hate that word. But the idea of raising someone who feels more secure and confident in themselves is important. So that emotional health is sort of, it's always a balancing.
Yeah, it's always kind of a balance act. Well, when you were doing your research for this book, was there anything that really surprised you?
Was there anything that really surprised me? I don't think anything really surprising to me, but, I guess from my perspective, the interesting thing is I think it doesn't take much to have a child get on the right course. I think that's why I have these 7 ideas in the book, because, you just plant some simple ideas, which as adults, they don't feel like much, but as a child, they change everything. Just a simple idea of like, when I work with a kid and say, how big did your anger feel? How big? And they said, oh, gigantic. I said, did it feel bigger than you? They're like, much bigger than me. I said, do you realize that you're actually bigger than your emotion? They're like, no, I had no idea. So like helping a child to shift their perspective in relation to their emotions so that they can see that, you can make a choice about them, that you are actually bigger than the emotion is sort of an aha for children. So helping kids sort of have some direct experiences, understanding their emotions more, can help facilitate them making these better choices. So I think from my perspective, that's always interesting to see up close and personally.
I bet. Get that front row seat to all these emotional ahas that are happening, you know, because they probably don't realize it. Because I know in your book you talk about how, thoughts create feelings, and they haven't really made that assessment yet.
Right. No, they have no idea. No idea. I said, you could think another thought. They're like, huh? Like what? I can just choose another thought. And then we go through some activities and they go, oh, that does feel a lot better. Or, yes, it does. Because, self-esteem and confidence, it is stuff that you have to practice a bit. You know what I mean? A lot of kids don't naturally feel, we have two eyes pointing outwards, so they're always looking for approval, but helping them, start to see themselves correctly as these powerful creators is beautiful.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, to be able to shift the discussion so that they're, learning in such an empowered way, it's just going to change everything.
Yes.
Well, and, it's interesting because we kind of briefly touched again, we've been kind of dancing on a few things, but there's so much great information in The Emotionally Healthy Child. It's a great book. I mean, we kind of talked about mindset a little bit. So what is an emotionally healthy mindset?
That's a great question. So, the emotionally healthy mindset, there's a bunch of things involved, but, one of the key characteristics is flexibility, right? So if you're with your child and you're going to go get an ice cream cone, but you say, oh, wait, I have to stop and drop this at UPS. And they're like, no, that's more rigidity. They're stuck in what they want to do. So it's helping teach them how to be flexible, how to go with the flow, because we know in life things don't always go according to plan. That's just the way life works. So emotionally healthy is learning how to adapt and learning how to be flexible. And that's not inherent to a lot of children. So it's a skill they need to learn. And so that's that flexibility. And also, doing your best to recognize, your role in emotions, that you can, it's not about failure. I think the only failure is when we don't learn from something. So it's sort of when we fall down, being able to pick ourselves back up again with the help of others typically, but saying, okay, I can try again, or I can do this differently. It's that sort of resilience and grit and inner strength, or even courage, because it takes a lot of courage to handle challenging emotions, anger, sadness, big emotions. It takes effort and energy. So learning how to be with that discomfort and sort of navigate through it, it takes practice and what I would call, someone, whether it's your parents or a teacher or coach, someone to help you through it so that you can gain that healthy mindset that, you can do and be and have what you want. It's just there are skills to develop to get you there.
Well, and I think that's such a flexibility. Gosh, what a great thing to teach children, because that just goes with everything else. I mean, teaching them how to work through challenges and, and being in that mindful space as well. I mean, with that flexibility, they're able to not really get stuck in a way where it's like them or the highway.
Yeah. And I mean, other points of emotional health, like mindset wise, would be, that flexibility, that mindfulness, being able to respond versus just simply react. A child that shares their feelings versus ignores them. So somehow processes them. And someone who feels not only confident, but connected. You want a child who feels disconnected. That is sort of, that's more on the sad side. So you want to help them establish those healthy connections for that, nurturance of emotional health.
Well, and in your opinion, do you think it's ever too early to teach children about mindfulness?
No, but I would always decide how, like certain kids, they want to, they'll go on a nature walk and let's look at nature. Other children want to draw on a mandala. Other kids want to listen to sound. So I would just find a way in. And I would say between 0 and 3, before sort of logic comes online, usually around 4, children can be more reasonable. Early on, they're just learning through, what they see or who you are. So the more we become mindful and careful, the magic of mirror neurons says that in the presence of someone else, it's easier for us to learn something. So they'll pick up on our ability to stay calm during a challenge, or our ability to slow down opposed to rush, which we all do. But, if we can just slow down a little bit, and especially when we're having someone who's upset, if we can do our best to stay calm amidst that storm, children pick up on that skill set. So I would say early on, they're picking up on that.
Yeah, all those learned behaviors. Well, and so for our listeners and our readers out there, what is like one of the takeaways that you want them to have from reading The Emotionally Healthy Child?
I would say just that emotional health is something learnable. It's a skill to learn. A lot of people say, I didn't get those genes, or I didn't come from XYZ family. And it doesn't matter where you've been in the past. It's simply a skill to learn, like building a muscle, going to the gym. This is just a different set of skills. And that, when you learn them, not only for yourself, but to help your children, you're just sort of positioning your child for a positive trajectory in life as best as possible.
Well, and the great thing is people don't have to have children to purchase The Emotionally Healthy Child and read it to get information for themselves.
That's right. And I think we're always sort of reparenting our inner child. We're always going back through childhood and sort of mining, oh my God, that happened at 10. And you know what I mean? Sort of, so it is interesting.
Yeah. Well, and so where can people connect with you and be part of your community?
Thank you. Yeah, my website is growinghappykids.com, and there is something to sign up for, like a newsletter, and you get a free chapter from the book. So that might be helpful.
They've got lots of great information there. I know people can connect with you on your social media, and gosh, just kind of make sure everything, if they have any questions, they can work with you there as well, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Maureen, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a delight.
Well, thank you, Maureen. It has been such a pleasure to spend this time with you, and of course to talk about your new book, The Emotionally Healthy Child, Helping Children Calm, Center, and Make Smarter Choices. Again, The Emotionally Healthy Child is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie bookstores. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank you for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.